We are now on our fourth quarter topic, which starts with chemical reaction, followed by balancing equation, the stoichiometry, and the gas laws. No? So for today, we're gonna start with chemical reaction. But of course, when we're talking about chemical reaction, what really comes into your mind? No, so we have chemical there, and we have a reaction. No, so we can somehow thought of it in a laboratory setting, right? So a chemical reaction is a process which shows a chemical change, from the word chemical itself. So meaning the composition of a matter changes, resulting in the formation of new substances which have new physical and chemical properties. Okay, so do chemical reactions only happen at the laboratory only? So the answer is no, not limited in the laboratory. Though usually it happens talaga in the laboratory, but there are a lot of natural happenings, or usual happenings, I'm sorry, around us, that are indicating, a chemical reaction. One of which is, okay, so one example is the photosynthesis. So we know photosynthesis, in your biology, with Kima, photosynthesis needs carbon dioxide, sunlight, in order for the plant not to produce oxygen that is needed by animals and other organisms as well as us, no? And the cycle goes on. So if you notice, it is an example of a chemical reaction because we have a different reactant and we're gonna get a different product. Another one is digestion. So whatever we swallow, it will not always be the same yung ipopoop natin. For example, we eat burger, fries, unhealthy masyado, vegetables. So, yeah, some of its parts, will be included in our waste, but there are some bacteria, enzymes that are involved already, and there's absorption of nutrients. So basically, it's literally a waste, So whatever we eat, we we do not expect na it will be the same, yung waste natin. Another one, lighting a matchstick, So in a matchstick, when we light it, after the reaction, mawawala na yung chemical that causes it to light. Okay? So, kumbaga, the point of this slide is for you to understand what chemical reaction is. That whatever is the reactant, there will always be changes on its product. And another one is rusting. So if we let our metals in an open air, so eventually it will lead to rusting. So this is an example of a chemical reaction because once the metal undergo rusting, so basically hindi na siya babalik into a metal again. So there will be changes since there is a presence of oxygen. Okay, so to further understand what's the difference between chemical reaction and the physical reaction, so let's define or differentiate physical and chemical changes. So of course, changes in energy are always accompanied by particular chemical change or physical change. So right here, an example of physical change is water, wherein it has different state, solid, liquid, and gas. But take note when you say physical change, so there's a change in its physical form, not in chemical form. So once we have a gaseous water, it will always contain H2O. Solid water, H2O pa rin. Liquid water, H2O. So its composition is the same. On the other hand, we have our chemical change. Another ulit na naman example na is the matchstick. So once we light our matchstick, there is no turning back, kumbaga. We cannot build it again into an original matchstick that we had before. Okay, so that is the difference between physical and chemical change. Another thing is the wood, no, cutting the wood. So in physical change, we just change its shape, no, physical change siya. But in chemical change, when we're doing a bonfire, so eventually there will be changes because later after the bonfire we'll only get ashes, no? So that is the difference of physical and chemical change. Again, physical, there's no change in its composition, just the shape, the state, ganon. In chemical change, there will be a lot of changes, no? Not just physically, but chemically. So let's further define, no, what is physical change. So during the physical change, ang arrangement ng molecules is altered, leading to a change in state. So altered lang siya. No new products are formed and the molecular composition remains totally the same. Again, solid, liquid, gas. Again, there is no change in energy. So, like, ano lang siya, the energy needed to bring a physical change is equal to the amount of energy required to reverse the change. So, we have our ice there. So, it will undergo melting process. No? Of course, it requires energy. And it will turn into a liquid water. So, this liquid water naman, no, through freezing, no, which releases, again, energy, will somehow turn, no, into another state, which is the solid, no, na state. The reaction gets reversed if the cause of producing the change is removed. For during the physical change, the mass of the substance remains the same, only the energy, no, is added or somehow removed, and mass is not involved in physical change. Example, no, of physical change, dissolving sugar in water. So we have our water and our sugar there. When we mix it all together, no, so we have our sugar solution. But if we let it settle for a certain time, it will always somehow separate, no? The sugar will be separated with water. And if, even though we add them up, kumbaga, it did not change the composition, no? It's just water and sugar. No, there's no other chemicals involved, no, on the changes. Here, no, ice, no, example of physical change. Another one, no, and of course, solid to liquid, no, na physical change. Another one, no, so lighting a candle. So we notice naman na if we light the candle, it just melts. And yung sa mga sementeryo nga, diba, there are some collectors of melted candle and they somehow mold it again into a new one, no? But of course, this time around, medyo messy na yung color niya, medyo brownish na siya. So they somehow sell it in a much lesser price, no? But of course, on the part of the candle, as you notice, yung parang, parang thread na kung saan yun yung ginaano ng light, no? So of course, there will be changes on that part, but the candle mismo is, no, is an example of a physical change. Another one, paper, no? So whatever we do with the paper, we cut it, we make designs, and make flowers. So it's still the same paper. Another one, paper clip. No? So paper clip, we ano yan? we change its form, no, its original form, because of too much usage, no, but still it's still not a paper clip. And of course, uncooked, no, uncooked and just cut non vegetables, no. This is an example of a physical change. Yeah, shattered glass, no. So though we can say na it will not be useful anymore, no, since it is somehow cut, but take note, its composition, no, is still the same, no, it's still glass. So these are the signs of physical change: change of shape, change of state, no, like just like the water, change in size, change in any other physical property. So summary and physical change. So the physical change affects only physical properties, not the chemical one. In a physical change, there is no change in the composition of the substance, just the shape, the size, the state. The molecular composition remains the same. It just uses energy, in order for, or release, or remove energy in order for it to change into another form. Physical changes do not happen on a molecular level, just unlike the chemical change. Physical changes do not produce new products. Physical change is reversible and temporary. Okay? Yeah. So we can still, kumbaga, turn it back, no? Of course, maliban na lang sa paper, no? Na nakat natin na paper, we cannot bring it back to another whole paper. But the point here is, when we are talking about physical change, it's composition, no? The composition, not the shape, not the size, no, but the composition. It's still a paper. Now, what is chemical change? A change in which the molecular composition is completely altered and new product is formed. So once we have our new product, so eventually it will be considered a chemical change. It reveals, the chemical change cannot be reversed by changing or altering the experimental changes, just like what we can do, with the physical change. The mass of the substance is altered during a chemical change. Either the mass is added or removed. So chemical changes create a new product. The changes in chemical change are irreversible and, always remember, permanent. So just like the lighting of matchstick. So during a chemical change, energy changes occur. So there's an energy difference in the breaking of old bonds and reactants and the formation of new bonds in the product. So in here, as what you can see, we have our methane here, and we added with two molecules of oxygen. We're gonna get carbon dioxide and water. So as what you can see, there is an energy difference, in the breaking of bonds in the reactant, which results to new bonds, So there's a distribution, of atoms, from the reactant to the product. So example of chemical change, we have burning of wood, burning of paper, So once we burn these materials, it cannot go back to its original state. Another one, burning camphor, it has numerous spiritual benefits that symbolizes positivity. I don't know if you try this at home, but it's just not positivity, but peace and getting rid of negativity from your home. So I'm not sure lang saan mabibili ito, Maganda to if it's true. It's used in products such as Vicks Vapor Rub, So dito pala ginagamit si camphor, So people use camphor for cough, pain, and itching. So camphor or Cinnamomum camphora is a terpene or organic compound that's commonly used in creams, ointments, and lotions. Another one is milk, no? So the acid causes milk to coagulate and thicken, inhibiting the growth of harmful bacteria and improving the product shelf life. Soured milk that is produced by fermentation is more specifically called fermented milk or cultured milk. So as what you can see, there's a change, no, chemically. So, yeah. Example of chemical change, I have mentioned this already, no, kanina, no? So, yun, basahin natin. So, dietary input, so food and drink, like 2,000 ml, no, approximately. So, merong digestive secretion, so we have our salivary amylase, no, that digest, no, the food initially. And of course, as what you can see on the stomach na part, so we have our gastric juices here, no, that will somehow affect or digest more, no, the food that we eat. So, sa liver natin, no, dadaan siya sa liver, sa pancreas, and then meron tayong tinatawag na intestinal secretion. And in here, sa ating intestine, no, so merong water absorption. So, small intestine absorbs 7,800 ml of nutrients or water. And then, sa ating large intestine naman, so as you can see, may 1,200 ml. And, merong colonic mucus secretion, no, sa colon natin. And, ang colon naman, magre-reabsorb naman ng 1,250 ml, no, ng water, no, sa colon natin na area. And, as you notice, na 150 ml na lang yung may iwan, no, for our waste. So, that's the, somehow, the illustration, no, of how chemical change happens in our body, no, wherein it cannot be fully wasted because our body is reabsorbing it. Take note, when we drink a lot of water, so it will somehow result, no, in much ano yan, softer, no, na stool, no. But if we drink less water, so as you can see, 2,000 ml, so this is 2 liters. No, so 150 ml na lang yung for the, to soften our stool. So that's the reason why if you drink less water, basically much harder yung mga stool ninyo or mga poop ninyo. Okay?